today's practice is going to just require the use of a beach towel or a large bath towel. So like one of the ones that are kind of fluffy and a little bit firmer. You can also use a yoga blanket if you have one. But since we're making this accessible, I'm going to stick with the towel tonight. So go ahead and come down to sit. And if you're like me, the time change today kind of got me here. It was like a very strange and surreal thing to look down at my watch and be like, oh gosh, it's later than I thought. So we're going to do a little practice that's going to just help you kind of move some energy, get a little bit more grounded as we move sort of towards the evening hours, and help you kind of readjust to this time change. So what I'd like you to do is just go ahead and find an easy seat. I'm sitting up on my blanket or my towel here, and I'm going to kind of wiggle around until I can find a place where I'm feeling like I'm connected. So I'm going to reach back and pull a little bit of the flesh out from underneath my pelvis so that my pelvis is pressing down on that blanket. And then I'm just going to take my knees wide. My feet are towards my midline. And for a moment here, I'm just going to start to roll my shoulders. So go ahead and draw your shoulders up towards your ears. On an inhale and on an exhale, just drop them down your back. So we're going to come to find a nice long spine and just take your palms to your thighs. And we're just going to start to do a little bit of this rocking motion. So drawing the chest forward and over to the left, and then forward and over to the right. And breathing however you'd like. If you feel like you're a little stuck with your hands, if placing them on your legs feels a little bit restrictive, you can always take them out in front of you, in front of your knees, and just allowing the body to kind of lead with the heart and move from the left to the right. And while you're doing this, just kind of keep your eyes open, gaze around the room, take in our familiar space. Obviously, we've been practicing like this for almost 2 years now, and probably the space that you regularly practice in feels really familiar. You're like, oh gosh, for me, I'm like, man, I really need to vacuum. My cats and my dog have haired everything in here. So, but whatever you see, just take it in and continue to let your body kind of settle in. We're going to start out our practice today with some movement, and then we're going to work towards a more sort of restorative phase, just letting the nervous system reset as we come into the evening hours, as we come into rest. So we'll take 2 more of those rocks. Just gazing around the room. And then go ahead and release. And we're going to take our left hand down next to our left hip. Bend that right knee, plant that right foot on the mat, and just walk that left hand out a little bit more. So your right knee is pointed towards the sky, your left knee is still down on the mat. And here, we're just going to start to bend the elbow, draw it down towards the hip, and then reach over the ear, turning the face towards the ground. So you're just kind of opening your chest towards the side, and then rotating your chest so that it faces more towards that left hand. So again, keeping eyes open if that feels good. Maybe even widening the gaze, widening the eyes to take in that stuff around you. And notice how your breath wants to move here. Notice if you feel like you want to exhale maybe when you roll towards the earth. And if you want to maybe inhale when you gaze up towards the ceiling. There's no set way, there's no right way or wrong way to do this. This is your practice, and whatever really feels good in your body should be your guide. Sometimes it's really hard to connect to that, but hopefully after a little bit of movement here, you'll start to feel a little bit more connected and grounded. So we'll do 2 more of those. Just drawing the elbow back, opening the chest towards the sky, and then rolling the shoulders more towards the earth. And then come back up to sit, and we're going to just switch sides. So take that right foot down, that right knee down. You're going to take the left foot to the mat, left knee comes towards the sky. Walk that right hand off towards the right side of your hip, and we're going to do that same movement. So you're going to bend your elbow, open your chest towards the ceiling, and then reach forward and roll the chest towards the earth. So again, just kind of working into that upper back. Just allowing the body to kind of move as we like it to move, as feels good. If anything feels sort of sticky or like there's a place that you want to hang out, feel free to hang out. You don't have to move on my rhythm. You don't have to move on my cue. Best thing about Zoom yoga is that you're on a very little screen very far away from where I sit, and I can't see you. So if you wanted to turn off your camera, if you were like, I'm just going to lay on the floor for a while, that's cool. This is your practice. This is your time. So we'll take 2 more of those. And just kind of letting the breath settle, noticing what that feels like. And as you do your second one, just come back to center. So plant your hands under your shoulders, tuck your toes, press your heels down, lift your hips, and take whatever shape downward dog suits you and where you are. Some days I get my heels to the ground. It's very rare. Most days I don't. So don't feel like you're doing it wrong or you're out of line for not doing exactly the way I'm doing it. Here, I'd like you just to pedal out your feet. Again, allowing movement to come into the body, allowing any of that anxious energy or that nervous energy to kind of just move through you. We don't have to hang on to it. We don't have to bottle it up. We can move and wiggle. And then once you've taken a few of those pedals, go ahead and just come to stillness. Press evenly down into your palms. Let your heels sink towards the mat. Maybe move your heart slightly more towards the mat. Take a deep breath here. And a nice long exhale and sigh it out audibly. Just let it go. Take another deep inhale and a nice audible exhale. On your next inhale, go ahead and ground down into that left foot, and you're going to reach your right foot towards the sky. And then exhale, you're going to step that right foot in between your hands at the top of your mat. Drop your back knee. Untuck your toes. And go ahead and plant that left hand down. Reach your right arm up towards the sky. Maybe just gaze towards that right thumb. Maybe it comes into your periphery. And then exhale, frame that front foot. And here, we're just going to start to shift our hips back, keeping that right foot on the floor, and then forward, letting that knee come in front of the ankle. So normally you'll hear the cue, never let your knee come in front of your ankle. Well, in this case, I'm going to say move your knee in front of your ankle. Let it come forward. Let that left hip flexor stretch a little bit, and then come back. And I'm keeping my head, my gaze down towards the mat. If it feels good as you come forward, you can lift your eyes and then lower your gaze. Just moving into whatever feels good here. We'll do 2 more of those front and back rocks. And here I'm trying to keep the sole of my right foot down on the mat, but it's totally okay if that right toe lifts. Changes the shape of the stretch, but it's not like, you need to meditate more or you're a bad person for not being able to keep the sole of that foot down. We're all built differently. We're all structured differently. And sometimes our bodies just don't do that. Go ahead and frame that front foot. Come to stillness. Tuck your back toes. Lift your back knee. Press up and back, downward facing dog. Take a moment here just to pedal out the feet once again. Again, kind of letting those hips roll. So almost like you're kind of dancing, allowing your weight to shift from left to right, allowing the pressure in your hands to change. And then come to stillness. Take a moment here. And on your next inhale, go ahead and lift that left leg towards the sky. Exhale, lift. Take your left foot in between your hands at the top of your mat. Drop down to that back knee, untuck your toes. Plant your right hand, reach that left hand up towards the sky. Maybe see if you can just catch the edge of your thumb in your peripheral vision. Take a breath here and let your hips settle a little bit more towards the earth. And then exhale, frame that front foot, and we're just going to move the hips forward and back. So sinking the hips back towards that back heel, and then letting that left knee come out in front of that left ankle. So I'm moving kind of slowly here, and my torso is resting on my thigh. I'm not trying to lift it off, not trying to do any major kind of muscular activation here, just letting gravity kind of do some work for me. And sometimes when we're feeling a little activated, when we're feeling any kind of anxiety, or especially when you're feeling the Sunday night blues, this kind of movement is a little bit more supportive. Feels kind of good. So we'll take 2 more of these. And then when you're ready, go ahead and come back to center, frame that front foot, tuck your back toes, lift your back knee, step back, downward facing dog once again, and just pedal out those feet. So when I say pedal out those feet, what I mean is bend and extend, bend and straighten your legs one at a time. So when you do this, your hips will kind of shift and shimmy. The weight in your hands will change. And then once you're ready, find some stillness. Ground down into that left foot. Reach the right foot towards the sky. And then step your right foot in between your hands, the top of your mat. We're going to come on up into a high lunge. Take your hands to your hips. And here, all I'm going to ask you to do is just take a very small step with that back foot in, so that you narrow the gap between your front foot and your back foot. And at the same time, maybe just wiggle your feet so that they come to be on railroad tracks instead of being on a balance beam. So my right foot is in line with my right hip. My left foot is in line with my left. Gives me a little bit more stability. And here, I'm just going to do that same kind of movement, only I'm going to bend deeply into the front right knee and then straighten. And I'm keeping my back left leg straight. And just moving dynamically, allowing energy to move down into my feet. And as I press back, I'm allowing that energy to kind of rebound into my body. We'll take 2 more of those, bend and straighten. And then bend into that front knee, frame that front foot. Take your hands down, step back, downward facing dog. Once again, pedal out your feet. I'm a really big fan of really simple practices, really practices that do a lot more sort of functional style movement than, I guess non-functional style movement. Stuff that we do in our everyday lives seems to be a lot more valuable in my practice lately. Go ahead and find some stillness if you've been pedaling out your feet like I have. Ground down into that right foot. And on your inhale, you can lift that left leg. Exhale, step your left foot in between your hands, the top of your mat. Go ahead and rise up into a high lunge. Take your hands to your hips. And once again, make that same adjustment. So step your back foot in slightly. Widen your feet from left to right so that, again, you're on a railroad track instead of being on a balance beam. Don't want you falling over. I know that when I start to bring in this sort of dynamic movement, a lot of times my balance gets a little weird. So then we're just going to bend and straighten that front knee. So you're bending and straightening that left knee. I'm keeping my right knee straight, or as straight as is comfortable for you. And again, just thinking about rolling my shoulders down and away from my ears. Taking a few breaths. And letting my breath come and go as it pleases. I'm not trying to control it. I'm not doing any kind of specialty breathing. Just letting that breath move the energy down as I bend into the front foot and then rebound back up. We'll do 2 more of those. And then go ahead and bend deeply into that front knee. Frame your front foot. Step back. Downward facing dog. Take a moment here. Pedal out your heels. Take a couple of breaths. And once again, just sigh out audibly, like you're just emptying any kind of anxiety or stress, concerns you might have down onto the mat. And then find some stillness in your downward dog. Ground down into your left foot. And on your next inhale, take that right foot towards the sky. Go ahead and step your right foot in between your hands, the top of your mat. And we're going to spin around, come into a warrior two stance. So that back heel is going to rotate slightly. Your front foot is going to be roughly in the middle of your mat, and you're essentially looking to kind of split that back foot in half if you were to draw a line from your front foot back to your heel. And just keep your hands on your hips. And what I'd like you to do is go ahead and reach behind you. Take your left arm on top, your right arm underneath, and grab for your forearms. And here, maybe draw your elbows a little bit more towards each other. Lift your heart. Maybe lift your gaze. Take a deep breath. And on your exhale, come forward. Let that right shoulder come to the inside of that front right knee. Let your head hang heavy. If this feels like too much for you, you can always lower your left hand down to the mat. Take a few breaths, just a little humble warrior here. And then on your next inhale, really press down into the soles of your feet. Lift your heart. Come back up into that warrior two stance and release your hands. Reach your fingertips out long, front and back. And here, turn both palms towards the sky. You're going to reach your right palm up towards the sky and back. Reverse your warrior. And then exhale, come down. Frame that front foot. Step back. Downward facing dog. You've probably noticed that I am skipping chaturanga. I am not a fan of it, but I also have a shoulder injury that I've been working on. So I tend to stay out of that. If chaturanga is in your practice, if it's something that you like to do, feel free to do any of that. Vinyasa or whatever feels good in your body right now. Go ahead and ground down into your right foot. On your next inhale, lift that left foot high. Exhale, step your left foot in between your hands, the top of your mat. Spin that right heel down. Press down into both feet, lift your heart. Find that warrior two stance. So once again, when you're coming into warrior two, you're just looking for that front heel to split that back foot right into the arch. And then from here, you're going to take your hands behind your back. This time, opposite hand on top. So my right arm is on top of my left. And then I'm just going to fold forward so that the left shoulder comes to the inside of my left knee. My heart's moving towards the earth, head moving down towards the earth as well. Take a few breaths and notice how in this pose, your breath is kind of forced to change. Notice how you have to adapt to meet it where it is. On your next inhale, press down into both feet. Actively draw those legs towards one another. Lift your heart. And then find a nice broad warrior two. Reach fingertips out, both front and back. Palms face down just for a moment. Maybe gaze out over that left hand. And then inhale, flip your palms towards the sky. Reach that left palm up towards the ceiling and back. Reverse your warrior. And then exhale, frame that front foot. Step back. Downward facing dog. Take a couple moments here. Let the feet pedal. If you want to move, move. If you feel like you'd like to go through a vinyasa, feel free to go through a vinyasa. And once you've noticed, if you'd like to open your eyes, you can go ahead and just shift your hips over to one side. Come to sit for a moment. We're going to take hold of our blanket or our towel here and unfold it. I'm going to make it so that it comes to be about halfway unfolded. This is roughly the size of a yoga blanket, so your tassel end would be over here where the two ends meet. And all you're going to do is just make a nice towel roll or blanket roll with that tool. And then once you have a nice long blanket roll, you're going to turn it so that it's long ways on your mat. And then you're going to turn your back to the end of that blanket roll. Scoot your rear end back. Plant your hands. Maybe lift your hips And come to just sit on the very end of that blanket roll. And it may not be super comfortable at first, so once you have it there, go ahead and just lie back onto the support of that roll. And for a moment here, as you come back, let your shoulder blades drape down towards the floor. Maybe they'll touch depending on sort of the thickness of your blanket roll. Maybe they won't. No big deal either way. But let your elbows rest on the mat. Take your palms to your belly. Keep your knees bent, feet planted on the floor. And just for a moment, take a couple breaths here. Let those shoulders, those shoulder blades sink towards the earth. And if you need to make any adjustments to your blanket, you can always roll up one end to make a nice pillow. It's just a nice way to support the body, give yourself sort of this midline feeling. Take a few breaths. And as you exhale out, see if you can find a place in your body that's tense and just ask it to relax a little bit, reach towards the earth. We'll take 2 more breaths like that. Just with every exhale, asking some part of our system just to say, hey, take it easy. Take a breath, take a moment. And once you've taken those 2 breaths, go ahead and maybe open your eyes if they're closed. I know mine were. And you're going to take your arms out to a cactus position or like goalposts. Backs of the hands are resting on the earth. You'll feel your shoulder blades kind of tug around the edges of that blanket. Again, if you need to make any adjustments at any time, feel free to. But here, see if you can just let the backs of your arms soften down towards the earth. And just take a few breaths. And once you've asked those shoulders, the back of the head, the back of the pelvis to just soften down onto the blanket, we're going to add a little bit of movement. So if you've ever done sort of snow angels, this is kind of a modified snow angel. And what you're going to do is you're going to keep the backs of your hands resting on the floor. And you're going to inhale to reach your arms up and overhead. Reach your fingertips long. And then exhale, you're going to drag your elbows down towards your ribs. And kind of keep like a little tiny snow angel shape here. And you can move slowly or quickly. And as you draw your elbows down towards your ribs, as you bend your elbows more deeply, see if you can imagine just squeezing the shoulder blades towards that blanket roll in between your shoulders. And as you reach up overhead, just see if you can reach long. Take a stretch. You may find that you rock a little bit on that blanket. It may take a little bit of engagement to stay kind of still. That's okay. Go ahead and do 2 more of those, just keeping the backs of your hands on the mat or on the floor. If you're like me and you have restricted sort of space, you can just keep your backs of your hands on the floor. And then once you've done those 2, last 2 sort of floor angels, if you will, go ahead and just find a spot along that path that feels good. So for me, I kind of like my arms higher than my shoulders, so elbows are above my shoulders, backs of my hands are resting on the mat. And here, I'm just going to start to kind of let that blanket rock. So I'm shifting my knees left and right, and I can feel the blanket, the towel beneath my spine, just kind of rocking back and forth. This kind of rocking motion can be really soothing. If this feels too heart-opening for you, you can always take your hands back to your belly, back to a place that feels more secure. But just explore. Find a place where you feel like you can work with gravity, like you're being supported by it. And the movement is really kind of small. It's really kind of subtle. It's not super huge. So just kind of notice what happens. when you give it a try. And then once you've rocked a little bit, go ahead and find some stillness. You can lower your arms if they're up over your head, back to your belly. Take a breath. And then all you're going to do is just roll off to the left or right. Let your knees lead the way, so drop off that blanket off to the left or right. Come onto your side for just a second. And then slowly roll your shoulders more towards the earth to press yourself up to a seat. And you're just going to slide that blanket or that towel off to the left or right. I'm going to actually refold mine just a little bit here because I'd like to use it for Shavasana. And just notice. And once you've noticed and welcomed any kind of sensation that's moved into your system, go ahead and walk your feet back in towards your midline, towards the middle of your mat. And you're just going to draw your knees in towards your chest. Take your hands to the fronts of your knees and just slightly rock across the low back. So knees are shifting left to right. Just kind of allowing gravity to do its work. If you'd like to separate your knees, you're welcome to do so. If you'd like to move them individually, feel free to. Again, the best thing about practicing yoga on Zoom is that you can do whatever you want. You can move in the ways that are nourishing and kind to your body. I'm only here as a suggestion, as maybe a guide, maybe someone who can give a little bit of insight into new ways to move to make your body feel better, to make your mind feel better. But really, this is totally your practice. And then once you've moved in whatever way feels good, I'm going to have you do one more thing before we come into a Shavasana. We're going to take a nice long Shavasana today. We're going to do a little bit of guided Yoga Nidra just to help all of us adjust to our new hour difference. So come to stillness with your knees drawn in towards your chest. And what I'd like you to do is on your next inhale, you're going to lift your shoulders, lift your head, draw your knees towards your chest, and try to squeeze all of the muscles in your body nice and tight. Squeeze the muscles of your face, squeeze your shoulders towards your ears, flex through the soles of your feet, squeeze the belly. And then on your exhale, go ahead and expand out and take up space on the mat. If you'd like, you can grab your towel or your blanket and you can choose to place it under your head like a pillow. You can choose to lay it across your lap if you'd like. You can make whatever adjustments you might need. If you feel like you'd like to throw on an extra layer, you can feel free to do that. As we come into rest, your body temperature may lower, so you may want something just to put on to be a little bit warmer, a little bit more cozy. And if you have a pillow or something else that you want to grab, you're more than welcome to take a moment to do so. Just find a place that you can rest, that you can soften, that you can feel supported and held by the earth. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes or soften your gaze, whatever feels good in your body in this moment. And if you'd like to just slowly begin to kind of go inside, allow whatever sounds are around you to come into your awareness. Notice what those sounds feel like in your body, if they feel close, if they feel far away. See if you can peel back the sensation of sound as it comes into your awareness. And by that I mean, perhaps you notice the loudest sound first. And once you've noticed the loud sound, see if you can go beyond that loud sound and notice something a little bit quieter. And as you notice those sounds, see if you can start to draw your awareness inside. Maybe start to notice the sound of your own breath, just as it moves in and it moves out. And as you notice the sound of your breath, for the next few minutes, I'm going to invite you to just simply listen to the sound of my voice. If at any time you become uncomfortable, if something becomes overwhelmingly attention grabbing, go ahead and address it. You don't have to be held in one spot. You don't have to feel like you're locked in place. Take care of yourself as we move through this practice. So with your next inhale, I'd like to invite you to draw your awareness into the tip of your right index finger, the tip of your right middle finger, the tip of your right ring finger, the tip of your right pinky finger, the tip of your right thumb. Notice sensation into the palm of your right hand, the back of your right hand, your right wrist, your right forearm, the crease of your right elbow, your right upper arm, the back of your right upper arm, your right shoulder. And for a moment, allow that entire right arm to feel heavy and soft and held on the earth. Next, draw your awareness to the tip of your left index finger, the tip of your left middle finger, the tip of your left ring finger, the tip of your left pinky finger, the tip of your left thumb, the palm of your left hand, the back of your left hand, your left wrist, your left forearm, your left elbow crease, your left elbow, your left upper arm, the back of your left upper arm, your left shoulder. And for a moment, hold the awareness of your entire left arm in your attention. Next, draw your attention to your collarbones, tops of your shoulders, and see if as you send your awareness there, you can simply let that part of your body relax and soften and be held. Draw your attention to the right rib cage. Notice how it expands and contracts with each breath. Draw your awareness down to the right side of your belly, the soft place of knowing, of instinct. Gently bring your attention down to the outside of your right hip, the front of your right leg, the back of your right leg, your right knee, the back of your right knee, the front of your right shin, the back of your right calf, your right ankle, the back of your right heel, the top of your right foot, the sole of your right foot, your right big toe, your right second toe, your right third toe, your right fourth toe, your right pinky toe. For a moment, hold the awareness of the entire right side of your body from your shoulder down to your right foot in your attention. And see if with the next exhale you can soften any holding on the right side. Draw your attention up to the left collarbone, your left rib cage, the left side of your belly, your left outer hip, the front of your left thigh, the back of your left thigh, the front of your left knee, the back of your left knee, the front of your left shin, the back of your left calf, your left ankle, the back of your left heel, the top of your left foot, the sole of your left foot, your left big toe, your left second toe, your left third toe, your left fourth toe, your left pinky toe. And for a moment, hold the entire left side of your body in your attention. Notice if there's any place that needs a little bit more love, a little bit more softness. And just invite that softness in. Breathe into the sensation of letting your body be held and supported. Next, draw your awareness up into your throat, the back of your neck, your chin and jawline, up into the edges of your jaw. Maybe separate your teeth and allow your tongue to move away from the roof of your mouth so that it is soft and relaxed. Next, send your awareness into your cheeks and allow the skin of your cheeks to slide towards the earth and soften. Allow your ears to relax down and soften to any sound that's coming in. Next, send your attention to your eyes. Feel the weight of your eyelids if they're closed against your eyes. See if you can sense the weight of your eyeballs as they rest back in their sockets. Ask the skin along the temples on either side of your forehead to slide down towards the earth. And release any holding across your forehead. And allow your scalp to slide down with the weight of gravity. Feel the weight of your head against the earth or against your pillow beneath you. And for a moment, from the crown of your head all the way to the soles of your feet, allow your body to simply rest and be. Noticing your breathing, noticing anything that may come up that may require your attention. And if it calls to you, just invite it in and allow it to rest. We'll rest here for a few breaths, letting gravity take us deeper into a state of rest. And then slowly, and when you're ready, if you're ready, you can begin to deepen your breath. Invite oxygen more deeply into your belly, into your rib cage. And perhaps, if it feels right to you, begin to just brush your fingertips against one another, letting your thumbs run along the tips of your fingers, bringing sensation and movement back into the body very slowly. Perhaps roll your wrists, start to bend and flex your feet, your ankles, and maybe roll your head from left to right. And if you'd like, on your next exhale, you can take a nice long good morning stretch. Reach your arms up overhead. Reach your feet out long. And when you're ready, roll over to either side just to find a moment of rest. And as you find this moment on your side, maybe find one thing, one change, one shift that you're grateful for in this moment. And when you're ready, gently shift your shoulders more towards the earth. Press down to sit up and find an easy seat. If you're not feeling like you'd like to be upright yet, you are more than welcome to stay lying down. And if you are lying down or sitting, just start to rub the palms of your hands against one another. I'm just kind of gently dragging my fingertips along each palm. You can either rub your hands together like you're trying to start a fire, or I'm letting my elbows go out wide and just feeling the slide of my fingertips. And once you've done that movement, go ahead and take your hands to your opposite upper arms and just start to squeeze through the upper arms, almost giving yourself a little bit of a hug here. Breathe into the sensation of being held. And then once you're ready, you can just gently take your hands to heart center. Let your palms rest against one another. Maybe let your thumbs rest against your sternum as you feel your sternum lift back up into your thumbs. Bow your head towards your heart and know that all the love and light in me bows to and honors all of the love and light in each one of you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.